Stanley, Scuba, Sailing, and Adventures.
I appreciate you being here with me to log another entry in the travel journal. If this is your first time, please hit that subscribe button. This is Scuba Diving the Florida Keys Dive Series. Before we get into the intro video for this Florida Keys Dive Series, I wanted to show you a sample of some of the photographs I took while on my trip in the Florida Keys. If you're interested in spending more time looking at these photographs and others, you can find all of them on Instagram and my Facebook page. Both of those are very easy to locate. Just Google Stanley Scuba and you should find them very easily. After the slideshow, I'll give a brief overview of the trip. We'll take a look at some charts and then a couple pictures of some of the dive shops I visited. Alright, it's time to talk about the Florida Keys. So this trip was a little different for me. I spent about a month in the Florida Keys and got to do 17 dives. Anyway, I've been diving in the Keys almost every summer for the last 4 or 5 years. And before that, there was like a 20-year gap before I was back in the Keys, but almost every summer now. And this trip was a little different. Like I said, I spent a month there. I got a condo and I stayed on Long Key. And I drove down from St. Louis, so I had my Jeep with me. And it wasn't too bad. I stopped and overnighted on the way down. I didn't try to rush through that. You're not going to go really fast in a Jeep anyway. At least not comfortably. So I took my time getting down there, and that was uneventful. And like I said, I stayed on Long Key, but on the drive in, I stopped at every major dive shop starting in Key Largo. I just wanted to see, what sites they dove and get a feel for what the shop was like, just, by talking to the folks that work there. I usually even get a kind of a good feel or a bad feel, but really everyone I talked to was nice. I did question them, like, well, are there any dive shops I should avoid while I'm here? And really they all spoke very highly of each other, so that was interesting. And I'd heard good things and had recommendations for specific shops. I ended up only diving with 3 shops while I was there. I did 17 dives overall. I did dives off of Marathon, Big Pine, Isla Mirada, and then Big Pine again. And I'll show you this on the screen in a minute, and we'll look at some charts, and I'll show you relatively where the dive sites were and location of the keys and things like that. Great experience, really. All of the dive shops were good. I did dive, these were all new shops for me, by the way. I had not been diving with any of these shops before. So, Captain Hook's in Marathon, and Captain Hook's in Big Pine Key, and then Key Dives in Isla Mirada. So, all new dive shops for me. And they were all really good. The folks were great. Had a great experience with all of the dive shops. Just everything was so positive, and in the diving world it usually is, but there are a lot of great people. It's a great community. Anyway, let's take a look at the list of dives. We'll take a look at the charts. All right, so here's the list, and you can see I started out Marathon, did Coffin's Patch, Samantha's, Donut, and Barbara's, and that was with Captain Hook's on Marathon Key, and then down to Big Pine Key, which was also Captain Hook's. And the dive site's actually Lou Key, but they call it out by Mooring Ball. I'll go into more of that in the dive series. And then over to Isla Mirada with Keys Dives, And those were all on Alligator Reef, and including one spectacular night dive. I hope you enjoyed that video. That was probably the best night dive of my life so far, and that's 40 plus years of diving. And then I really enjoyed Big Pine Key, and well, that's Captain Hook's, and then the dive sites are Lou Key. Again, I'll explain that in the video, but great diving there. So yeah, that's 17 dives altogether. I wish I would have had more time, but I was working while I was there too. But anyway, let's take a look at the charts. This is the NV Charts Guide. I've got a series of these books. You can see here the outline. It shows you what this book covers. 8.4 is the area. I guess that's how they do it. And then, you know, I'm not going to look at the Northern Keys because I didn't really dive there this time, and that was 8.3. All right, hopefully the chart book works well on the camera. I guess we'll find out. Here's Long Key. That's where I stayed. And then Isla Morada's up in here. And you can see Alligator Reef's actually called out on the chart. So is Coffin's Patch. Here's Marathon. So I was really right in the middle of where I did a bit of diving. And then further south is Big Pine Key and Blue Key dive site. And we'll take a look at that. I believe it's on the next page. Blue Key is labeled on the chart, the Blue Key dive site. And here's Big Pine Key. That's where the dive shop is that serviced Blue Key. And then you can see it's pretty far south because here's Key West. And you notice most of the diving, at least all the diving I did actually, was along here, this reef that runs along the edge of the keys. And going back to the previous page, you can see that's this reef and these dive sites all kind of run along the outside here. I don't know if there's any diving in what I've heard some people refer to as the Bay Area, and here you can see it's been called Florida Bay, but I've not done any diving on this side of the Keys. I think there was one dive shop that talked about some dive sites on the Bay side, but I don't recall. This chart gives you a better view of where Isla Morada is. Right here, and then again, Long Key is where I stayed, and that's down here. But here's Isla Morada, and here's Alligator Reef. I think we'll go ahead and take a look at the electronic charts very quickly. This is Navionics. I actually use this for navigation on my sailboat. I think it was purchased by Garmin, so there's a different name on it now, but still Navionics to me. Anyway, this gives you a good idea. You can see the different colors there. That represents the differences in depth, right? If you look at those numbers, there's quite a bit of difference there, and you can see the edge. And a lot of these dive sites are actually labeled and marked in Navionics. See, there was Coffin's Patch, and we just looked at Alligator Reef a minute ago, and you can see notes. It's a great app. It's available on your iPhone. This is actually an iPad, and I used to use the iPad as my backup navigation device on my sailboat. See, there's Big Key, and I'm looking for Lou Key now. And there we have Lou Key, and you can see the outline. That's a sanctuary preservation area. Just a quick tour of the electronic charts for the Florida Keys. Next, we'll take a very quick look at a couple of the dive shops. I didn't record anything inside at these dive shops. You never know how folks are going to react these days. This is Captain Hook's on Big Pine Key, and they service the Lou Key dive sites. Had a great time diving with these guys. They have a website where you can sign up for your dives and upload all your info, and you pretty much can hit the door and be ready to go. Nice boats, nice crew. This is Captain Hook's on Marathon. They've got these cool little ponds out front, and I don't know what the story is on the animals. They have some nurse sharks over here to the left, and they feed them at certain times of the day. There's a green moray eel, and I believe the eel can go back and forth under this little bridge, but not sure. I think some of these may have been rescued. I don't recall what the story was. But fun way to kill time while you're waiting to get on the boat. Again, part of that Captain Hook's dive shop organization, so you can do almost everything you need to from the website. Very nice, very helpful folks. Here's the Key Dives dive shop. I didn't shoot any video here, and I'm not sure why. But again, another great dive shop, great folks. They had this really cool boat. And Captain Brad, awesome captain. Good times with Key Dives, Alligator Reef. And I think I mentioned earlier, man, the best night dive ever. I think they only do it once a week if they have enough folks. If you can get a chance to get out for this night dive, I highly encourage you to do it. It's absolutely worthwhile. Welcome to the Florida Keys Dive Series. One of the things I enjoy the most is interaction with folks that are watching the videos, so I try to respond to every comment. Please leave me some comments. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, and be kind.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.